I'm going to focus primarily on distinguishing spirit responses from radio bits. I'm going to help you to better understand how to distinguish those things, but more importantly, I want to make sure that you have the ability to learn and understand that it takes some time for you to learn how to use it. You can't expect instantaneous results like you see on television. A lot of the people that you see using the devices have been using them for years, and they've actually tuned themselves to be able to pull out keywords that are relative and pertinent to the conversation that they're having. In many respects, it's like learning a new language. You're actually teaching yourself how to be able to pick out things through the noise or through the sweeping process. Most people don't have that ability, and it does take a little bit of a learning curve to acquire. So what I'm going to do today, we're going to do just a very small session. I'm going to allow the device to scan through the frequencies. I'm going to show you how I find those responses that are embedded so that you can help learn and perhaps teach yourself how to hear these responses in real time. I'm choosing to use an orbital speaker in order to reproduce the sound and enhance quality during this session. You can use any other speaker that you have, but we do recommend this particular kind of speaker. You will also notice that I've got the device configured for FM 250 milliseconds with the antenna fully extended out. Now I want the antenna extended out because I want to receive the stronger frequencies. It is my belief that spirit energy can manipulate those frequencies and distort some of them, and that's where the responses are hidden. So listen carefully and try to hear the responses during this session. Here we go. That was a response right there. Many of you didn't hear that, but I'm going to be quiet for a minute and acquire about 3 minutes, and then the next step, I'm going to show you what came through. When you get a device like this, sometimes you may want to ask a simple question. If I was to ask how many of you are in the room with me, typically that would be a very simple response, a number. Did you say 11? How many are in the room with me? You're alive. I heard you. You murdered him. Who has anything else to say? Another 10 seconds and I'm going to turn it off. Okay, that's it for now. Now let's take a closer look and analyze some of the responses that we received during the session. Here we go. Here's the first response that we heard. This is definitely a multi-word response that traverses over a minimum of 3 or 4 radio frequencies. That's very uncommon to hear a full sentence over that many radio frequencies. This leads me to believe that it could be a valid response from spirit. But let's take a closer look at it and analyze it and see what really was spoken in this response. Here it is slowed down and amplified along with what I believe the response is. I believe the first response that we heard is, I think that we are dead. That's an interesting response. Let's move on to the next one and see what that one is. In the next response, I asked how many were in the room with me. One I clearly heard, the second one I missed, but here they are, and see if you can hear them. Did you say 11? The first response sounds like 11. Now let's listen to the next response and see if we can hear that more clearly. When you listen carefully to that, embedded within the white noise, you can hear what sounds like the number 8. Let's slow it down and amplify that a little bit more. I do believe the response sounds like 8. So we had 2 responses to my request for how many were in the room with me. One was 11 and one was 8. The next response is pretty clear, but to an untrained ear, it's often overlooked. So listen very carefully and see if you can hear this next response. As I listen to this response, there's actually 2 embedded within the white noise. One is a little bit at a lower level, and the other one is very clear. The first one I hear that I didn't hear during the session was, "They have to wait," followed by, "I'm alive." Let's slow it down and amplify it and see if you can hear the same thing. So my best interpretation of that response would be, "They have to wait," and "I'm alive." It sounds very clear. Reflecting back to our previous response in which a spirit said, "They have to wait," he may have been referring to our next spirit response, which is a little dark, but you have to understand that not all spirits make it to heaven, and you really do not know who is going to respond through the device. This is a good example of that, so listen carefully. Did you catch that? If not, here it is amplified and slowed down a little bit. Clearly, the spirit said, "I murdered him." Okay, that concludes this mini session in which we analyzed several different responses within the time period. Your results could vary. Again, it does take time to be able to interpret, to hear, and to pick out those responses.